Hey guys, what is up? It's HBL Manga here, and welcome back to the YouTube channel. So today I am doing a video that you guys really seem to like, I really like to film, and that is none other than manga that I'm reading. So this is basically manga, recently, larger series or more unique series that I've been reading that I have really enjoyed, that I really wanted to share with you guys. So let's not delay, and let's get right into the first one. Okay, so the first series that I've read in its entirety recently and was really surprised by was none other than Summertime Rendering. Summertime Rendering was a series that everyone and their mother was so excited for. This series got so much hype in the community that honestly, like, I feel like you don't see this quite often with the manga series. Like, something new comes out and it's like some people are excited, but like not everyone. I feel like there was like a universal, like, everyone was so excited for this to come out. Summertime Rendering follows our main character here who travels back home after he learns about one of his childhood friends' death. However, when he's home, he quickly realizes that her death isn't the only one and that there's a lot of mystery as to why these people are dying. However, them dying isn't as cut and dry as it may seem. These people, death isn't the end for them. This series basically just follows uncovering that mystery of who is killing basically the townsfolk. What is this mystery of what's happening to the people after they die? It just, throughout the 6 volumes, you discover more and more and more about what's happening, and I really enjoyed it. So let's talk about my thoughts on this series. So I would say, honestly, overall, I loved it. I will say it took me a minute to get into it though. I think the first and second volume, honestly, were not my favorite. I mean, it's the introductory volumes, I get it, whatever. But this volume, actually in particular, volume 1, I wasn't in love with. I was just kind of like, it's just kind of okay. And I told my friends that, and they were like, dude, if you do not keep reading this series, I will never talk to you again. And I'm like, okay, the stakes are high. I will continue reading the series. So I will say at volume 3, I was absolutely hooked. Volume 3 and on, I was absolutely enthralled with the series. It gets so complex, like there are so many different layers to the read. The group that's going and doing these killings, like the reason for it is so interesting, and it's just very, very unique. One thing that I didn't realize when I got into this read is the censoring isn't actually censoring. So you may have seen online panels from this series that have like the little like gray and black like boxes around certain parts. It may seem like censoring because that's what I initially thought, but I was very wrong. It is an artistic choice done by the artist, which later on, I would say in the beginning, I'm kind of like, why are you doing this? Like, I'm kind of like, I want to see someone's head exploded. Like, just show me. Just show me what's happening. But later on in the read, you start to kind of understand why this was a choice done by the artist, and I actually started to really enjoy it. Like, it was actually kind of helpful. You'll get what I mean later on. Again, a good horror thriller read, and with only 6 volumes, it's not that much of a financial commitment. All of the 6 volumes are actually out in the softcover versions. There is a hardcover version coming out. I don't exactly know when. It was pushed back several times, but I think it's coming out like winter-ish. I definitely like the soft covers. There are box sets of it. Don't really recommend the box sets unless that's the only way you can collect the series. The box sets are kind of dumb, but fantastic read, really refreshing read, and I really, really enjoyed it. Okay, so the next manga series that I've read recently was one that came out of far left field for me, but boy, I loved it. It is so good. I haven't binged a series that hard in a very long time. I was absolutely enthralled with it. That is none other than Emma. So Emma is actually done by the same mangaka as A Bride Story, which is a series that's kind of blown up, kind of recently, not really blown up, but like more people know about it, and I'm very excited about it because it is a really good series. But Emma follows our main character here, who is a maid set in, I believe, the Victorian time. I could be so wrong, but it's like with kings and queens and dukes and duchesses, and if you've watched Bridgerton on Netflix, I mean, that's the time frame we're talking here. But it follows her, a maid, you know, someone of lower class, someone of almost no class, someone who is a commoner, if you will, falling in love with someone of high class, someone of a high stature, someone who has a place in society, and the entire series just follows the drama of their relationship, or lack thereof, and it's just very, very interesting. It's very much a Romeo and Juliet type beat, like we love each other but we're not supposed to be together, you know what I mean? So it's just kind of like drama. So it's very much like slice of life drama, but also like historical too, which I also really like. I love me a good history read. I love learning about different times, different, you know, people groups, whatever. So this also scratched that kind of historical itch that I have, which I always love when that happens. So my thoughts on this series overall, obviously I love it. I am a huge fan of this series. I would say it is a very good romance, slice of life, adult romance series. I obviously prefer adult romance series, and I think this did it really well, and I think why is because it wasn't really raunchy. Like, it was very, very, like, the relationship between these two and how they interacted with each other was very mature, very, like, respectful, and just very wholesome. Okay, honestly, there is a time and a place for raunchiness. There is a time and a place, don't get me wrong, but sometimes, and most of the time, I don't really want that. So this was, like, a really nice read because it wasn't that. Like, I never read this read and was like, ugh. Like, you ever have it where it's like you read a romance read and you just cringe? You're like, that did not just happen. Nope. And you have to, like, walk away from the book. That didn't happen in this read, which I'm very thankful for because I can't do that. It's just very, very wholesome and done very, very well and done very maturely as well. So overall, really enjoy it. I will say one thing to be aware of. The ending was a little weird, and I talked to someone who actually read this as well, and they agreed with me. Basically what happens is a majority of the series, it's obviously following our two main characters here on volume 1. It follows them and how their relationship proceeds and how, you know, they interact with each other, how they face adversities, whatever. But at the end, before it wraps up their story, it goes into other couple stories that you meet throughout this main read. So it's kind of like a weird, like, side story, side characters moment, and then it goes back into wrapping up their story. So honestly, that was a little jarring, I'm not gonna lie. I was reading it and I was like, wait, where's Emma? Where did she go? But then it was fine because it wrapped it up at the end. So just be aware of that. The ending's a little bit wonky, but it's not, like, bad. It's not one of those things where I need to sell these volumes right now, which I'm obviously thankful for. But very good read, highly recommend it. Yen Press is actually currently reprinting this series, so now is the time to get it. It was out of print for a while. Volume 4, however, is still very elusive. Hopefully Yen Press reprints that one. I don't know why they haven't yet. But yes, I highly recommend Emma if you're looking for a good adult slice of life romantic drama filled read. It's very dramatic, and I love it for that. So definitely recommend Emma. It is a great read. Okay, the next manga that I have read recently that, honestly, this is taking a very different tone. It's gonna become very depressing and somber, so just forgive me. I talked a little bit about this in my manga haul, but I genuinely believe it deserves a place in this video as well, just because it was so insane. That series is No Longer Human. So No Longer Human is a adaptation of the book No Longer Human, which I haven't read yet. I do plan on reading it. After reading this, like, I need to know what the original source was, original content was. Oh boy, this read, where do I even begin? So in the beginning of the series, you see him as basically a young kid still in school who struggles to grasp his humanity. He doesn't really know how to be a person. He doesn't really know how to respond to certain situations. So in order to compensate that, he kind of puts up this front, this persona, this mask, if you will, of being this really popular, really outgoing, really bubbly dude, just to try to feel like he's fitting in, when in reality, that's not really how he feels. Throughout this read, you basically follow this guy experience hardship after hardship after hardship until ultimately at the end of the series you see a shell of a man, a broken individual. He's like 24, 25 at the end of this series, and his life is basically over. The things that he experiences from being a kid to being literally a young adult is insane. I mean, there's drugs, there's women, there's violence, there's like, anything that could possibly come into your mind is probably going to be in this read. So let's talk about my thoughts on it, because boys and girls, I have a lot of thoughts. This manga was incredibly well done. I see why people say it's kind of one of those classics that if you are older and can digest some darker content, you have to read, because this really made a girl think. Like, I took a lot of time reading this read. Normally I can get through manga decently fast, but this one took me a really long time because I just had to digest and, like, put my mindset in a really dark place, and that's always not fun to do, and it's hard to do. So it took me a long time to read this volume, or this series. It's actually an omnibus, I'll talk about that later, but this was so beautifully written. There's a couple reasons for that. I think the first main reason in my head is because it didn't make light of really difficult situations. I think sometimes in manga and just in literature in general, it kind of like brushes aside some really like difficult things and kind of makes light of them for the sake of the reader not like getting in that headspace. But this didn't make light of those situations, which I'm really glad that it didn't, because one, I don't think they should do that, right? These are very real, very unfortunate situations. But two, going into the other reason why I really liked this read is because it made me feel something. There are a lot of manga series and just literature and film and just content in general that I consume that I don't really feel things from. Like, sometimes I'll like crack a smile or sometimes I'll laugh, but like, this has been the first piece of media, I would say, in a long time that made me feel emotions the way that I did. My heart absolutely bled for this main character. I think another part of that is I am very much someone who likes to make people happy. Just kind of who I am. I just like to make people happy. So reading this, and it also being something that people go through every single day, like this is a reality for a lot of people in the world. And like reading this made me realize that. Like I read this and I was like, holy crap, I live in such a freaking bubble. This is such a real thing that people go through. And again, my heart just bled all over again. Like it just genuinely made me feel something. I would recommend this to a very specific audience, a very specific people group, because it is not for everyone. Not everyone can digest this content, and I don't want everyone to digest this content. I don't think some people should read this at all. Number one, you need to be older. I mean, you have to be older to read this series. I mean, it's 18 plus for a reason. Just be aware of that. If you are younger, please do not read this. I can't even imagine. And also, know yourself before you get into this read. If you are not someone who can handle being in that mentally dark place, don't read this. If you're not someone who can digest really depressing content successfully, don't read this. Like, just know yourself when you're going into this read, because boy, it takes you to a place that you don't really want to go. Okay, so the next manga that I have for you guys today is taking a very different pace than No Longer Human. I can't read things like No Longer Human all the time because I don't know where I would be. Regardless though, this next read, ooh, it's been one of my favorites recently. And that is none other than freaking Gantz. Guys, I am finally on the stupid Gantz train. I have been eyeing this series for so long, and the only reason that I've never bit the bullet and have never purchased it and have never read it is because look at this thing. It is literally like half my face. And I have a big face. So like this is a brick of a manga volume. So the physical release is really the only thing that was stopping me from reading this series. And then some of my friends have been picking it up recently, specifically East Coast Manga, and he was like, dude, you're gonna love it. You have to just give it a shot. Like, get over yourself and pick up a volume. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I did. And it's so good. So Gantz follows our main character who basically was saved from death. He should have died. He almost died. But at that very last moment was saved from death and was transported to this room. This room where in the middle of this room there was this giant black oval. What is that called? What is that shape called? Sphere. It's a sphere! He's transported into this room with the big black sphere. And the sphere basically transports him and other people in this room, none of them know each other, to go and fight monsters. And to go and defeat monsters. And he quickly realizes that this is very real, this is no game, and he could easily die. So basically it just follows him throughout this series, continuing to go back to this room and continuing being sent out to go fight monsters, to go fight people, things, whatever. It ain't really that deep. I mean, you discover things along the way about, you know, is there any way to get out? Like, what happens? Like, all that sort of stuff. But I'm gonna let you discover that because it was just really good. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about my thoughts. So, I love it. It is like just enough of just like insanity, but also plot. Like, it's weirdly a good mix of both for me personally. I don't know why exactly, but it just somehow did a really good job. The artwork is fantastic. I mean, some of these panels and like some of the villains and like some of the things that this person has to fight are drawn so well. Like, I'm really impressed, honestly, with how the art is. And I think the biggest reason why I like Gantz, let's talk about the biggest draw that I have to this series. The biggest draw is that nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. You meet characters throughout this read and you get attached to certain characters and you like certain characters, and then all of a sudden in the next volume they're dead. That's what I really like about it, because I think a lot of manga series, you have like this group that is just protected, right? They just will not die. You're reading the series and you're like, you know what? I will see you at the end, buddy. I'm excited to see you there. But like this series, I mean, you do not know who you're gonna see at the end. I don't even know if I'm gonna see the main character at the end. I have no idea. It is just such a thrilling series, and I like that I will never know what's gonna happen in this read. Never know. Like when I thought a fight was done, like 5 more people come out of the woodwork and they're stronger than ever, and I'm just like, well, how are you gonna defeat them when you almost didn't defeat these guys? Like, it genuinely keeps you so on your toes, and that's why I freaking love it. I love when I can't predict something, because I feel like a lot of the time, a lot of media, a lot of manga especially, I can really predict what's about to happen. Like, I can predict how the ending's gonna be, which sometimes I don't mind, but most times, I don't want to know. So this is a series that doesn't let me know what the heck is gonna happen at the end, and who's gonna survive, and who I'm gonna see at the end, and I love that. So if you are looking for something that is completely balls to the wall action, just insanity, I mean, you don't know what's gonna happen next, very gruesome, very gory, very descriptive artwork, very detailed artwork, I would recommend giving it a shot. Again, this is for an older audience. I think this is 18 plus, yeah, 18 plus. I mean, there's like adult themes in here, so do just be aware of that. But don't let the bricks scare you, because they scared me. But honestly, they're not too bad to read from. I have yet to crease a spine. Just obviously don't like flip it inside out. You know what I mean? Just read with caution and you will be fine, because do not let a physical release stop you from reading an amazing story. And this is an example of that. Those are all of the manga series that I have been reading as of recent and that I have really been loving. Oh, I forgot to mention, I'm like volumes 1 through 6 in Gantz. Totally forgot to mention that. Regardless though, I highly recommend all of these series to you guys. They are all good for their own reasons. Emma is like so out of place, I will admit. It's like everything dark, gruesome, like horror, and then Emma, romance, drama. Sometimes you gotta spice it up. You can't read all this stuff all the time. So guys, I would love to know, what have you guys been reading recently? What have you been enjoying? And have you read any of these series, and what are your thoughts on them? I would love to know. But guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. I really appreciate you guys and everything that you do for me in the channel. The support is always overwhelming, and I really appreciate it. So guys, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. I really appreciate you guys. See you guys later.